potentially the Masvidals and Conor McGregor's. KSI might be right up there in their face.
Bazinga and Joe Weller. What is going on with that fight?
I've got a couple of guys who want to fight John Fury. Danny and I have been speaking, and he's very, very interested in fighting. Well, yeah, no one's supposed to know that yet.
Any secrets that you want to drop here in this moment?
I've given away a lot, haven't I? Okay, here's one. It's gonna be crazy.
Welcome, Misfits Boxing fans. I'm Ben the Bane Davis, joined by my co-host BL, and we're excited to get into today's installment of Misfits News. We've got an action-packed show for you today. Let's dive right into it. BL, how are you?
Oh, I'm especially excited this episode. We've got some really important guests coming in. And not only that, we're covering a plethora of news. So, Ben, give them the rundown of what we're going through in today's episode.
Couple big segments. We're cracking open Tyson Fury's pull out from his bout with Alexander Usyk. Some unsanctioned boxing going on with a few streamers. A great guest in Mams Taylor. A little bit of a lightweight tournament update and some other news with a couple injuries potentially, BL.
So let's talk about that injury. It's big news for the heavyweight division. Tyson Fury has been forced out of that fight with a nasty cut sustained in sparring. Maybe a third time a charm. This time, maybe he will fight Usyk. What do you make of it? Is the fight done now?
Third time's the charm, maybe, or third, or not at all, right? That's the thing with Tyson Fury. We just don't know. And I will say, credit where credit's due, he looked in fantastic shape. The guy clearly was taking this bout seriously. But I just have an issue with the matchmaking of boxing. Why did we even do the Francis Ngannou fight that caused him to pull out from the original scheduled fight with Alexander Usyk? I just thought that was goofy, and now our entire timeline is messed up. So I'm not sure if we're ever going to see Tyson Fury versus Usyk. Kind of feels like a cursed fight, but there are some big other heavyweight clashes going on too, BL.
You got the fight with Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. Obviously, the last time out, we saw Francis Ngannou put an absolute masterclass against Tyson Fury. A lot of people argue that he won this fight. Now, this time round, he's facing Anthony Joshua, a very different fighter to Tyson Fury. I think Anthony Joshua is going to come out and put Francis Ngannou in his place.
Now, BL, what I want to remind you is that's what everybody said what Tyson Fury would do, right? That was the general consensus.
That was the general consensus.
Get washed away. What happened? I think Anthony Joshua was an easier opponent for Francis Ngannou than Tyson Fury was. Yeah, I'll say it. Look, this is a take that I put in the oven, clacked it at 450, and left it there for several weeks. I think within 6 rounds, Francis Ngannou is going to leave Joshua sleeping, snoozing, gone. Either way, BL, talking about some sanctioned boxing in the traditional realm, let's get into some nastier territory. I want to pivot outside the Misfits universe and outside of traditional boxing to some of these streamer shows, the Aiden Rosses, the HS Tiki-Takis. What do you make of this unsanctioned boxing?
Obviously, there's some pros and some cons. I've got a big list. Now, my pros is slightly smaller. My cons is a massive list that wouldn't even fit into an hour-long podcast. The pros are they're bringing in some fresh new names and they're making the fights happen. Guys are just going in there and having a scrap. Now, that goes into my negative points. It is just a scrap. It's just a street fight that is somehow being allowed to happen on a big scale. Now, Ben, what's your take on this whole thing? Do you think it should be allowed? Do you think it's ruining the name of Misfits Boxing and these crossover boxing world?
It's certainly tarnishing it, and I think the efforts of Misfits is being given a bad name by this. And I don't want to sound too hypocritical because, the traditional boxing world levied these opinions about crossover boxing in the first place. They said it tarnished it. They said it gave boxing a bad reputation. So I don't want to sound hypocritical, but the no drug testing, the no medicals, people getting KO'd badly, ground and pound. The thing that kind of shocks me, BL, is we've got the ref and then 2 security guards in the ring, security guards around the ring, zero form, zero technique, zero ability. It's completely disorganized. So I just have a really negative opinion on it. I don't think it's safe. Talking about some things that we should do, BL, our next guest, amazing.
Our next guest, he is no better to speak about unsanctioned boxing. He's going to get us and talk about all the latest happenings in the Misfits boxing world. So please welcome Mams Taylor.
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I'm so excited. There's so much going on. It's going to be a wild year.
A lot of things we have to get into. Upcoming events, this lightweight tournament and the cruiserweight belt, they're both up for grabs. What can you tell us about the competition and some of the fighters to watch?
The lightweight tournament is easily the most competitive tournament in the crossover boxing space that we've ever seen. The standard is crazy. I mean, I've had to say no to some really decent guys just because I don't want to throw them in with the wolves. It's just it's gonna be crazy, fast paced, a lot of action, a lot of violence, and we're gonna have an interim champion, and that interim champion will be the #1 contender for the belt.
Well, a question I've
Now,
been getting anyhow, all over Twitter, is how is this format of the lightweight tournament actually going to work?
It's an 8-man tournament. We will commence that very, very soon, spread over a few different events. So it's not going to be an event dedicated to just the tournament. That way it'll build, and also the cruiserweight tournament will be the same. So initially we wanted to do a survivor tag for the last 4 on the cruiserweight tournament, but it looks like it's going to be a more of a traditional tournament style for that as well. I still want to do a survivor tag for the bridgerweight title. We need to mix it up here and there a little bit. So I think there are less contenders in the bridgerweight division right now, and that makes more sense to do it as a survivor tag.
Some of these cruiserweights we haven't seen in a minute, guys like Dr. Mike, guys like Face Sensei, without confirming or denying anyone, who would maybe you want to see from that weight class in a tournament?
It's impossible not to give it away. If I mention any names, so there'll be announcements coming, and look, I have so many DMs, right, from people who are just like, please tell me who's the next guy in the tournament. I'm like, you'll find out tomorrow. Don't you want the excitement to hit the same way? The delivery of this stuff is so important. Stuff spreads, so I've learned the hard way. I have to put misinformation out in order to protect the information. But yeah, I did that. I did that a lot with the mystery opponent this last time as well. Don't tell anyone, guys, but it's gonna be B Dave.
Something that the fans have been asking for is any news regarding Misfits 13. We know it's round the corner-ish, so can the fans know something going on?
I feel really bad. I'm probably going to give you guys the shittest interview. I can't answer anything. I'm waiting for a couple of bits and pieces. There's so many chickens and eggs, and it's really difficult to proceed to point B until point C has been figured out, and so on and so forth. So it's actually doing my head in. It's a really fantastic card. I'm waiting for the approvals, and then obviously we want to announce, and I want to have as much time to promote. And also, we've got some changes with our partners, DAZN. It looks like we're aligned that we want to make sure that we have at least 75 to 90 days ahead of time to start announcing and promoting each card, so that it does every card justice, and we can build the storylines and focus and shine the light on the competitors. I think it will illuminate that a lot better than it's been done in the past, where sometimes it feels like these cards are rushed together and just thrown out, and we don't give the fighters the time to really push and promote themselves, and for some fans to get to know them. And I think that's not fair to anyone, but it's not been done. We're fully aware that that's what's happening, and it's just because of certain protocols. So we're working together with the zone to really find a great solution to that problem, and we're almost there on that.
You definitely got to give requisite build up for a lot of these matchups. Now, you knew that this question was going to be coming, but I want to phrase it in a better way. KSI, of course. I'm curious if you could provide your perspective on relinquishing the cruiserweight belt and your opinion on that.
If KSI was going to be actively fighting a lot of influencers still, it would make sense for him to hold that title. But if he's going to be having the super fights, against outsiders like Tommy Fury, or potentially the Masvidals and Conor McGregors, and whoever else there is that is being talked to or whatever, if those things happen, those guys are not really going to sign multi-fight deals on Misfits Boxing. And then same reason the title wasn't up for grabs against Tommy, because it was a one-fight deal, was no rematch, nothing. It doesn't make sense to have an outsider come win your title, and then you have to do another tournament for it, and it devalues the title in a way. So there are contenders, and there's a lot of really tough contenders that want a title shot, and it's not fair to them not to have a title shot based on the fact that it's not the right business move for KSI to be fighting them. That's not fair to them. So KSI felt like, let me allow for the rest of these guys to really work hard towards that title. If it's a star-making performance from someone who wins that tournament, KSI might be right up there in their face at the end of it. Who knows, you know?
I wanted some additional confirmation from yourself. You know, he said in Leeds 2024, I will be fighting. I was curious if you had any confirmation or thoughts on within the next 8-10 months him competing.
He's excited. I think when he came to the Misfits boxing event, he was just, you could see he had that fire in his eye coming back, that eye of the tiger. So it made me happy to see that, because I still think the ending is still, you know, to be written for KSI in the boxing realm. So,
Well, I'm going to chuck a couple names that have been spoken about very publicly. Bazinga and Joe Weller. There's been negotiations going on public, but we know all of that is speculation. That's why we wanted to pose a question to yourself, Mams Taylor. What is going on with that fight? I know it's a fight that the people want to see. Can we get any updates on that?
very soon you'll have an update either way. I think it's got to make sense to both of them, and I think I'm finally in a place where I can make it make sense. So
if Bazinga isn't the fight, can we expect him to make that crossover transition into Misfits Boxing?
I wish there was just a quick, easy yes or no answer. And it's fine, and I've got patience and time for it, obviously. Of course, I prefer it when I call a fighter like Ben Davis and say, hey, do you want to fight? And he's like, yeah, sure. Can you be this weight? Yeah, sure. This is the purse. Is that cool? Yes, that's great. This is the opponent. Oh, cool. Yeah, let's do it. You know, I don't take advantage of that, and I don't see that as them devaluing themselves, because they're in good hands with us. So I want to make sure that the fighters are happy too, but I rarely have that with a bigger name like Joe. To be fair, with that negotiation with Bazinga, he was really straightforward and everything. But to fight someone else, it's got to make sense to him. It's got to get him hungry and motivated, and I understand that. Joe is an entertainer who loves a storyline, and I think that him against Bazinga makes total sense.
Now, rapid fire, a few breaking things today that we'd love to get your thoughts on. And none of it's thankfully like in contract negotiations, so you can be a little bit more free. But John Fury and Carl Froch today going back and forth. What do you think about that?
I've got a couple of guys who want to fight John Fury. Certainly, you know, he's familiar with Misfits. I think he had a good experience with us. I know him in KSI. Don't see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, I think I think Misfits is the only place for that kind of fight. To have John Fury fighting there, I think we're the only ones who can actually deliver that properly and do it justice.
The world's most hated streamer, Jack Doherty, and Danny Aarons. That's also been one that's received some speculation.
Danny and I have been speaking, and he's very, very, you know, he's checked in regularly. He's very, very interested in fighting. So I'm confident that we're going to see his debut sooner rather than later. And as far as Jack goes, I've definitely got another opponent in mind for him. And you know, you want to match these guys fairly evenly and make sure that it's an entertaining fight. Let's see what happens. But I'd love to have him on board. But again, I've had a million people say to me they want to fight, and then when it comes down to it, they don't. So hopefully that's not the case.
This is completely optional if you want to talk about this or not. However, King Kenny and HS TikToki have revealed today that they're fighting on April 6th in Wembley. Now, what are the truths behind this? Are they leaking too much? What's going on?
Well, yeah, no one's supposed to know that yet. But wait, what? That's the thing with this live stream generation.
Yeah.
Everything is given away. What did HS say?
So HS, when I interviewed him at the event, he said he was going to be on a pay-per-view card in London in April.
Okay. Well, you know, let's see what happens. Announcements to come if it's true. But again, don't forget, I do put a lot of fake information out for people to not figure it all out.
Something we're not misled about is the introduction of Dad fighting on Misfits. We've seen him on Twitter. What's going on with that? Is Dad going to be the new face of Misfits possibly?
I think Dad is a lot of fun. I think he makes great content. You know, there's some good fights for him, and I think he brings a whole different energy, and he takes it seriously, and he boxes, you know, before camp, before fights, he has a pretty serious camp, and you know, he's what it's all about, really. He brings the entertainment, makes content, fights. He's 2-0. So let's see what happens. We'll get the right fight for Dad.
I'm curious about this commission as well. If there's an update on it, how does it work? What does it mean for the fighters? I know that in Misfits 12, we had the Polish gang. I'm curious, yeah, moving forward, what's what?
I'm 70% sure that we'll be ready for April 6th. If not, the Polish guys did a great job. We'll have them back. But I'm pretty confident this other commission will be ready by then.
Now, Eddie Hearn recently on Twitter has spoken about doing this Misfits sort of format. Now, what did you make of this traditional world starting to adapt and look into the Misfits format?
You know how some people look down on stuff like that, like, oh, this isn't proper. It's just not what we're used to. So doing something that you're not used to is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it is, but sometimes change is the only way to grow is to try new things. So honestly, I'm really excited. If it is that, then I think that'll be really fun to tune into and see that. And if we've inspired that, then I'm very proud.
Last thing we've got for you, Mams. Let's go big game hunting. The Rhino, Ryan Barrelin versus Jake Paul. We got to know what you think about this.
Listen, I don't want to. I actually don't want to hate. I think we're kind of at a truce, or not a truce, but a ceasefire at least with this. So I'm not trying to throw the first shot out. It's been peaceful. My Twitter's been relatively calm, and it's nice. I don't mind it that way from time to time. I don't understand the move, but if they have some kind of a long-term plan and this fits into their puzzle, then great. I would have thought that Jake would probably want to be challenging himself more if he's going towards the world title. If that's his goal, then maybe challenging himself might be the right move. People will say KSI fought Swarms and Pineda on this much notice and that much weight, blah, blah, blah. But it's a completely different thing. He was going to fight Alex Wasabi, obviously, and there was a beef there. And KSI, he was trying to fight influencers and to show he's the top of that sort of game, and then fight Jake Paul.
BL, any more questions for the man himself?
Well, I think there is one main question I do have to give, and obviously is the biggest question in crossover boxing, is will that KSI versus Jake Paul fight ever happen?
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I would love for it to happen. I think, going back to the story having an ending, you can't get a better ending than that. Stranger things have happened, and if we could make that fight happen and it was fair to both of them and all parties were happy, then it would be fantastic. Obviously, it would be the biggest spectacle in our space ever in history, and that's one I don't think you can repeat for a long time. Something on that level of grandeur.
I'm curious, man, before we let you go, any secrets, any sprinkles that you want to drop here in this moment?
Let's see. I've given away a lot, haven't I?
I think April 6th. Yeah, people are gonna come away from this thinking that.
Okay, here's one. I've just seen my first drawings of what the MMA platform would look like, and it's gonna be crazy.
What an interview that we had with the man himself, Mams Taylor, an excellent guy. Thank you for coming on. And we got some real interesting tidbits from him, BL. April 6th. There's been a lot of talk around that. Seems to be the key date. HS Tiki Taki King Kenny. I wonder who else could be on that card.
Well, it looks like there's rumors of Swarms. It looks like there's rumors of Salt Pappy. We're seeing them back in training. So are these the fights that are going to be made?
Could be. There's so much speculation. Another bout, of course, that we touched on, John Fury and Carl Froch. Mam says that if there's any place to make this happen, it's within the Misfits universe. I agree. I can't disagree. It's such a weird fight between two individuals that haven't been inside the boxing ring for a minute, but have been around the realm for so long. And gosh, I'll tell you what, with the amount of antics that John Fury's been making fight week after fight week, I'm not saying I'd like to see him get punched in the face. I'm not saying that, but it would be interesting to see him box.
Well, there's a key point that Mams Taylor brought up, and that is the upcoming tournament. It's not going to just be done in one day. It's going to be spread out over several events. So, Ben, talk to me through who are the current challengers and what are the matchups being made?
Well, tournament favorite Waleed Sharks, who's faced Dean the Great on 2 separate occasions, is getting back in there. He was the first guy announced. The second one was an interesting guy that people thought, hey, this person maybe didn't deserve it, but he's certainly getting it. Joey Knight, challenger number 2. Challenger number 3, everyone thought Yeti Gang was going to be in it. Boom, he's confirmed. 4th guy, out of nowhere a little bit, Lil Craig, who's had, again, that street boxing, that, interesting background, but he gets the biggest platform of all time in, I would say, the hardest tournament Misfits has ever put together. Ace Musa, 5th guy in, and just today, the Tasmanian Devil himself is the 6th challenger. 2 more spots. I'm very curious to see who gets them.
It's almost a mix-up between crossover boxers that box beforehand and just boxers. I mean, these guys, when you see them in the ring, this is really crossing that level of crossover boxing.
We'll see. I mean, this is a real deep end for some of these competitors. Even guys that have been at the high level before. We've seen Waleed Sharks. This tournament is no easy walk in the park for him. Because not only do you have to fight 3 guys to win the tournament, then your reward is fighting Dean the Great. Right? You get to get
what
to the
a reward
final
that
boss.
is, I must say, as well.
And it's a great reward. It's an amazing opportunity, but it is a hard fight.
At the moment, for me, the current guy who is to win it must be Waleed Sharks.
Some other stories that we have to touch on, though. Potentially some ducking, injury, few fighters returning to the ring. BL, what do you have for us?
Well, it looks like some of our fighters are starting to get injured. Jarvis apparently ruptured his tendons when battering B-Dave's head. Now, I have the real question is, what is B-Dave's head actually made of to be able to manage that?
Oh, it's a cinder block. The kid's got granite upstairs, and I'm not surprised that Jarvis incurred some injuries, which is tough to see, right? A wonderful performance by him. Now the champion is on the shelf for a minute. I don't think we should do an interim belt. Let's let him stay undisputed, and the division can figure itself out, but it's tough for Jarvis.
Well, something exciting coming to Misfits News is we want you to engage with us on Twitter. We're going to be posting on Twitter, and we want you to submit your questions and answers, and we're going to make sure to bring them up here. We're going to put your name out and make sure we're covering all the questions you're wanting and all the fighters you want us to interview as well. We want to engage you as much as we can.
What an episode, BL. We covered Tyson Fury's cut, some insights from Ams Taylor, Jarvis's injury, people being back in camp and getting some spars in. Join us next episode for more Misfits news as we continue to unravel the latest in the world of Misfits boxing. Every Tuesday and Thursday, right here on Misfits News.
We'll see you there.